All right, looks like we're right on schedule at 3 minutes after. Somebody's schedule anyhow. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Commissioner Bettis will be out this evening. She's not well, and I'm expecting Commissioner Strickland. He'll probably come in a minute. We'll start the meeting out with a pledge to our flag and a quick moment of prayer. And if you indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Father, we come to you tonight, again, Lord, just asking for your continued blessings on our county, on our country, on our leadership. Lord, I'm aware of a number of families grieving and bereaving in this area. I pray, Lord, that your grace will be sufficient, that they'll call upon you during this time. Lord, at this time I ask that you bless our efforts here, guide those efforts as well, and Lord, whatever is accomplished, whatever is said and done here, that you'll be pleased with that. Forgive us of our sins, Lord. Watch over us as we depart. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. We're going to skip right through a chairman's report tonight and get into hearing and actions on rezone matters, and I'm going to turn that over to Chairman Houston, please.
Smack that up on me right quick.
Yes. I'm feeling kind of quick tonight.
We have first rezone request is for Terry Seagraves, who's requesting to rezone his 8-acre property from A1 to RR so that he can subdivide it into 2 parcels for 2 home sites. Property is located on map 26, parcel 7 on Highway 106 south of Isla in District 1. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of the rezone request.
And folks, what we'll do is we'll offer Terry Seagraves the opportunity to speak. If there's anybody that would speak in opposition, we'll give you the opportunity immediately after that, and then a rebuttal opportunity. With that, I'll ask if Terry Seagraves is present, or anybody here to speak on Terry Seagraves' behalf. All right, I'm not seeing anybody, so I'm going to assume that they don't have anything to add to it. Okay. Is there anybody here tonight that would speak in opposition to this rezone application? All right, not seeing any hands there either. Okay. With that, then we'll close the public hearing, and we'll open up the business portion and vote on this application. And so the request is to rezone 8-acre property from A1 to RR, subdivide to 2 parcels per home site. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve, Chairman.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion on that? Comments? Okay, Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
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 All right. One down. Very good.
Mr. Chairman, the next one is for Karen Barnett. She is requesting to rezone approximately 2.5 acres of her 10.61 acre parcel from A2 to RR for a home site for her mother. Property is located on map 21, parcel 40 on Arrowhead Lane in District 2. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of her rezone request.
Thank you. Put Karen Barnett here. Would you like to say anything or add anything to Mr. Houston's comments? You're welcome to. Not really? Okay, so you're satisfied with what he presented? I'm satisfied too. All right. Well, with that, I'll ask, is there anybody present tonight that would speak in opposition to 2.5 acre portion of her 10.61 acre property from A2 to RR?
Motion to approve, Chair.
Second. I have a motion and a second. there any discussion on this one? Seeing none, Commissioner Kirk.
Yes.
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 Very good.
Mr. Chairman, the last rezone request we had was for Ronnie Martin. He was ill during the planning and zoning public hearing, and since he has passed. So I guess that is.
And I believe that was the petitioner. Was it Ronnie Martin that was petitioning?
Mm-hmm. It was his property,
Okay.
and he was the applicant.
Okay, but, and you're aware who passed though, right? It was not Ronnie Martin. It was the one that was looking to purchase that building. I know, forgive us, I spoke to Ms. Fortson this morning, and we had a gentleman in our community that passed away, and he was the one that, I believe this rezone, the sale of this was going to be contingent upon the rezone, and that's the gentleman that passed.
Okay.
And I don't think he'd mind us. That's a good friend of mine, somebody I graduated from high school with, Donald Deadweiler. So for those of you who might have been unaware. So we won't be hearing that petition or that request tonight. All right. Well, thank you both. And you may leave if you like.
I'm going
I
on that
figured
one.
you would. All right. Thank you both.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
All right. No, that's fine. At this point, we'll take statements and remarks from citizens on any agenda item, and we have those items listed as 4 through 9. And and I encourage participation here, but I'd ask if we can keep it kind of boxed in a little bit. I've got to be back at 8 in the morning, so. Just kidding. I'll take the time you need, but if there's somebody that can speak for a group, then we certainly welcome that as well. So items 4 through 9. Anybody willing to speak or wants to? There you go. Chief McDuffie.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Sure. Nice to see y'all. Thank you for your time this evening, what y'all do for our community. Yes, I am Butch McDuffie. I'm the chief of the Shiloh Volunteer Fire Department here in Madison County. And I'm here tonight representing the other members of the Volunteer Fire Service in our county, the Madison County Volunteer Firefighters Association, our other chiefs, and our other volunteer firefighters that have came and those who are not here tonight. As you know, we have provided the Board of Commissioners a request for increased funding for SPLOST dollars and to be included in the SPLOST referendum that's being considered at this time. One of the things that we'd like you to know is, prior to this meeting, we had a meeting with our chiefs, and it was quite lengthy. We sat down and discussed this proposal that I prepared for you guys and sent it out. And I know it's quite lengthy, and I'm not going to go through the whole 30-plus pages. But there are a few things we'd like you to know. The Volunteer Fire Service brings a great value to our community here. As you know, in the presentation, we did an analysis of the Elbert County Fire Department, the City of Elberton, and Athens-Clarke County. And we looked at what the type of cost to save this county over $1.5 million a year in salaries alone. That does not include capital equipment, doesn't include insurance and things like that, just salaries alone at $1.5 million a year. Now, we're not asking for to become paid departments and things like that. We think we provide a very good job at protecting our citizens. We have some very good fire ratings and ISO ratings across this county. We have a 3 I know of over in Comer. Many of our volunteer fire departments are 4s. I know we got some 5s and 6s, and a big reason we don't have that, is really our water needs. However, the equipment needs we have are exceptional. Inside the analysis that I provided to you guys, we have average ages of our vehicles. The average age of a fire engine that comes to serve our citizens is almost 22 years. Our equipment that we wear on our bodies and our protective equipment, it's old, it's outdated. Many of this current SPLOST that we're currently in now, many of our fire departments have taken advantage of what the citizens and you provided us 5 years ago and bought new personal protective equipment. We've bought new radios, we've bought new trucks, we've bought new breathing apparatuses. All of these things we've bought to help protect ourselves while we serve this community and try to protect you and your families and other citizens of the community. This equipment has age limits. Many things are changing in the fire service. These days it's not the volunteer fire service it was 15, 20, or even 30 years ago when you could show up and say, hey, I want to help out, and they gave you a helmet and said, grab that hose and go that way. All right, it doesn't work that way these days. We have to provide annual training to all of our folks. We have to keep up a certain amount of hours of training. The National Fire Protection Association is changing the rules. Sometimes it seems like daily on us. Many of us spend hours and hours of personal time just trying to keep our departments certified so that we can provide the protective services that we do and help keep those insurance rates low for our citizens by having those good ISO ratings. But we need your help and consideration as the 2020 SPLOST process moves forward. We're asking for you to consider to give the fire departments $2 million. In the last SPLOST, we asked for, I think it was 1.2, 1.3 million, and we got right around $1 million, and we are very appreciative of that. And we know that there are other folks coming to you and with these same requests. But when we, a firefighter is twice as likely to contract and die of cancer as a general population. We need to be able to provide our volunteers with good, current, up-to-date, technologically advanced equipment so that when they do risk their lives and expose themselves to these hazardous materials while trying to protect our community and the citizens of our community, that they can reduce the risk to them and the burden it could put on their family if they do contract some form of cancer. The trucks we buy, we've got a 39-year-old ladder truck, and I venture to bet none of you guys drive a 39-year-old vehicle every day back and forth to work. But the truck works, it runs fine, and we're going to bring it if we need it. Some of the other vehicles are across our community, the tankers and stuff like that. They're very old, they're outdated. The technology has changed so much over those years. Like I said, the average engine is 22 years old. The technology changes alone that have happened in those 22 years could really help us advance our firefight capabilities. I think the newest engines we have right now, or the newest engines we have in the county, are about 9 years, almost 10 years old. So with that, what we are asking is that you consider including the volunteer fire departments of Madison County in the upcoming SPLOST, and considering increasing the revenues, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions if you have them.
Very fair.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else tonight that would like to speak on any of those items that are on our agenda? Senator?
Well, I'm going to put on a different hat today. I'm coming as a representative of the Development Authority. Hope y'all are all having fun. One of the things that I applaud your efforts to try to divvy up the pie on SPLOST. For me, one of the things that, as many of y'all know, and anybody that's been a firefighter, water is important. Water means a lot to it. And now I want to make sure that the Development Authority is included in your discussions as far as trying to expand the water system in the county. As Derek probably knows firsthand, we actually have 5 different systems, so to speak, that operate in the county that the Development Authority runs. 5 different zones, and they're not all interconnected. And one of the things that, to me, I want to try to keep pushing to have a Madison County water system, not 5 separate systems. So if you can, help make sure that the water's there for our firemen and our residents. So thank you much.
All right. Thank you, sir. That could perhaps be a record.
Respectfully, sir.
For the meeting or for Frank?
Both. He knows we're close. But not closer than you and I, Butch. I mean, I didn't want to say anything that way either. No, we're not. Anybody else, what, this item, SPLOST, the discussion, is going to be an ongoing one for the next couple of meetings. So I encourage, conversation with your commissioners, please, and, anything that we can do. I'm going to save my commentary because it's actually an agenda item, and if I say something now, I won't have anything to say when we get to it. But is there anybody else that'd like to speak on the agenda items? Okay. We'll move right on to item number 4 then. And we're trying to make an effort in the county to address issues that, it's a tough name when we say nuisance abatement ordinance, nuisance being anything that's probably not optimal. It's very difficult to categorize, and it's certainly not our attempt to tell people how to live or how to maintain property. Our concern is when it makes it over into the realm of safety or health hazard, or perhaps criminal activity, then we do have an issue with it. So Madison County does not have a nuisance abatement ordinance, and this is a pretty good step for us because of the unknown, but it's not to penalize as much as it is to protect the folks that are trying to do it right. So with that, I'll open the floor for the commissioners. This is an item that we have a draft ordinance, and we've had some comments from some of the commissioners, and we've had some input from folks in the community, and all we're doing is trying to give everybody, the reason we put this on the agenda thing of the month is we want everybody to have an opportunity to add their comments and concerns. And we've talked about it to some length, and we're still waiting. We will probably entertain this item at the end of the month for vote, and our hope is to have a final.
Well, I want to, and I think we're due some sort of nuisance abatement. I know I had a couple questions and comments, and I think I've got a few more. My secondary goal is to make sure we don't have any unintended consequences. So I guess with that said, the more I've been thinking about it, as soon as we enact this, it becomes law. And so my concern, or at least my desire, would be to get with the building officials and make sure there's an operational policy. How is this going to work? When it's going to work? I just don't want it to be signed on day 1 and day 2. We've got law that we don't know how to implement. That's a concern of mine. The other thing I think is maybe in that operations manual or ordinance supplement document, I guess. I know we don't want to load the ordinance up with too much language because then it's harder to change it at a later date. But I guess my thought process is making sure whatever this ordinance says, and in conjunction with OCGA, that talks about there's farm exemptions, there's other types of activities going on that I think that's just not identified in the ordinance as it's written. And I'm not saying it should be because it references OCGA, but again, I think from an operational standpoint, how is it done? How can we explain it? So if somebody either does have a question, we're not trying to figure it out on the fly. I think I'd just rather be proactive in trying to get that kind of documentation and that kind of level of thought put forward, and we can have it, what's the attorney's office vet that operational manual, or do maybe a peer review with another governmental agency. Just out of an abundance of caution, just trying not to step off too far without having our ducks in a row. Again, there's questions, with the farm exemption. There's the language in OCGA talks about. I was concerned about applicable code also being appropriate, and I think Mike shared me that what state law actually says, but also in the OCGA it talks about the applicable code when the structure was built. Mm-hmm. So there's a nuance there that we've got to make sure that's the clarity of, if it's an older structure, it may not meet today's current standard, but it may actually, and then what do we do with a structure that's moved in? there's some, I guess there's enough nuances in it, I think, a sharper, harder look in some conversation as we pull it together.
Well, and I might have spoken prematurely when I said, you know, we'd probably be looking at a vote, you know, we'll vote on it whenever it's ready.
There you go.
know, and, but I will tell you too, that what we started with was never intended to be the final, or a, you know, it wasn't a final product, and you're 100% right. Not only, it's better to have extra language in there up front than to have it vague and subject to interpretation from the day it's written. So I encourage, again, each commissioner, please take a look at the document, and whether you do pen and ink changes, whether you do comments, if you need help, Rhonda's pretty good at it, she can help you figure out how to do it. But bottom line is, there is a need. There's actually a need, and we see many times the evolution of either an abandoned piece of property, a burned out piece of property that's not destroyed, stays in use, it's not by the owner. So these are the things that we're trying to address. We're not trying to cause undue hardship for farmers or folks in agriculture that have older buildings and things like that. So again, it was never intended to vote on tonight, but again, for Commissioner Allen, if you had something.
For help and some new eyes, it's really, I think we're gonna have something that we can all agree with once we get down to it. And like I said, if it takes, you know, another meeting after the end of the month, you know, I've got no problem with that. Like, positive in the direction we're moving. So, like I said, I sure do appreciate the effort.
So. One last editorial on this. There are a number of offices that are actually involved with this that need to be part of the construction of it. You have magistrates, you have your tax commissioner, you have law enforcement. There are a variety of building inspection. So we want to make sure you know, it's not just talk. I'd like for them to put eyes on this too and see what they come up with, see what they have issues with, and then we'll ask our attorney to tell us what can and cannot stay in.
And I'll just remind everybody, when we started this, as Lee says, a year or more ago, I sent everybody, all the commissioners then, a copy of the Athens-Clarke County ordinance, which does have a lot more detail in it. It seemed like that was sort of overwhelming, so we kind of went to the opposite extreme, which is what you have now, which is the bare bones that the code requires you have in order to have an enforceable nuisance abatement ordinance. But if anybody doesn't have that, Clarke County one, or wants me to send it to you, I'll be glad to do that. I'll just resend it to all the commissioners again, so there are pieces in there you may want. It may jog your thoughts about other details that aren't exactly what they have, but that you'd like to see. So,
and there's a lot of counties, I mean, Towns County, that they don't have very many people at all, but they have one. So I've been looking at some of those. So Google is an amazing machine. So, you know.
Yeah, and actually, anytime, you know, you can go to Municode. I don't know if you've all done that, but yeah, you can go to the Municode, go to the library, and see any city or county's ordinances, and that's very useful.
I'm going to touch on this, but the keyword's enforceable. It can't be enforced, it's just another.
Yeah, I think enforceable, but also, as going back to what Derek said, that we have a plan going forward as to who it's going to be enforcing, you know, and how that's done. I mean, I look here and it says that a finding by the Madison County Health Department, health officer, or building inspector, you know, is that going to be who's clearly all the inspections are done by, because it sort of indicates that, right? Other than a group of people, which it talks about, I think 5 people or something coming forward and sort of petitioning that, you know, we structure be that it's unfit or whatever. So, you know, I think it's just important that we also have in place how we will enforce it.
That is one of those things that needs work right there anyhow. Yeah. We've got I know legally, there's some language that has to be there, and I just think that, when we start putting it together and get, a property or a circumstance is identified, that it's very clear every action that has to happen after that, and the process and who has ultimate authority in rendering some sort of corrective action, final judgment on that. So we'll continue to work on that. As I say, though, please provide anything that you can. You're welcome to send it to me, send it to all, if that suits you, so that everybody gets the input at the same time. Is there any other questions or any other comments on that? All right. The next item is new business is discuss 2019-2020 health insurance policy. Our next meeting, Matt Bidwell will join us, and we'll be making, if you will, one from our current provider, Cigna, another from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. The plans are similar. The costs are similar. Cigna has asked for a slight increase. Anthem has matched what we currently pay, but that's with some increased participation from county. Yeah, it's from deductibles and co-pays and things like that. So what I have asked is Matt is going to provide me a kind of a final version, and I'm going to provide that to each of you. I feel comfortable in being able to explain most of the changes, but I'm going to provide his contact information. He has agreed between now and the next meeting to meet with anybody that would like to meet. And he will travel and meet whenever is convenient. So the one item I'd like to point out is our claims, our total paid claims this year. We did not have any extremely large claims at during any month, but we had a lot of claims, and that's usually what makes it difficult for the insurance providers to offer a reduced rate or whatever. They're looking at claims being paid in general. We have very low deductibles, which sometimes make it a little, I want to be careful about the word. I don't want to say it makes it easy, but sometimes makes it convenient for folks to perhaps go to an ER when they probably don't need to. And so we're incurring a lot of those types of claims, and sometimes giving an employee the best, we're never going to, we're reaching a point where you're not going to be able to provide all of this anyhow. And at some point, we're going to have to look to see where it is we can take on some cost sharing from the employees. If I look at this, again, there's any number of things to consider. But I will tell you, at some point, I believe employees will need to be making a little bit more informed decisions in their health care bill. So I would offer that hand in, I've always said hand in hand. I never realized that was silly, but hand in glove, whatever, is pay. And we keep saying that we provide the benefit because the pay has been substandard or generally speaking, substandard. Well, I think I'd like to, if we're going to do anything, I'd rather reverse that. And healthcare is a tricky thing to try to track. So, but I'll provide more information. As I say, I've got their information, their proposals, and I just need to kind of put it in a nice, neat package, and so that you can look and see. As an example, though, I will tell you, taking a $150 copay at an ER and going to $350 keeps that's one of the things that keeps your total cost the same. So it's things like that. That's a large jump, but I don't think, you know, typically most people aren't going to the ER that much. So, are there any questions in general, that, and I know it's difficult not having the information, but, the pharmaceuticals are the cost drivers in this, as it is in the insurance plans. I don't know how to say it, a little bit larger co-pays, but, still, it's very competitive, and it's still, either one of these is a good plan. It just depends on what you want to take. I will tell you this too, it's my understanding, my complete belief that Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, is trying to compete for business that we've been providing Cigna for the last 4 years. In the insurance business, if you stay with a company, the rates tend to stay a little bit more level. You know, they're a little bit more stable. It's not to say they won't increase, but it's always easy to jump ship to that business that's offering something lower than what you're paying right now, but there's no guarantee it'll be there next year either, though. Just food for thought.
So to be clear, when are you going to probably get that to us? I mean, before that?
I'm hoping in like the next 2 days.
Okay.
I have the information, I just need to and I'm going to put Matt Bidwell's contact, as he's asked for you to contact him very specifically with questions. And I'm here, if I can answer anything at my level, I'm more than willing to do that too.
But he will be at the next meeting.
Oh yeah, he will. As has been the case in the last couple, at least the last 2 years, he will present, and he will actually. It'll be difficult this year for him to make a recommendation because these two plans are so similar, or they offer certain things, and it comes down to a decision by the board to the total difference is I think right at $100,000 increase in Cigna to stay with Cigna. But the question will be if the board wants to shift that extra cost to the employees. That's what it comes down to. And I'll try to make that clear when I provide this, though.
Will Matt have a proposal from Cigna that keeps the cost level with increased deductibles, co-pays, whatever it takes to get there? I just ask, because typically he has tried to have that.
He has, and I'm just going to look here real quick, and this is absent they came back with their renewal proposal, and then they have provided yet another, after we asked them to modify some of the co-pays, and they will provide that, and I don't know that I asked him to do that. Anthem did do that.
Right.
They just cut to the chase, and they're, again, trying to become our new best friend. So, and I'll ask him for that information too, though. So, we currently, go ahead.
All right. Do you know, both of these plans are open plans? In other words, they don't have do they have
no restrictions on
the doctor
facilities or no?
Okay.
No. Neither one of them do. I asked that today. Yeah,
I just don't want our employees to get in
right.
a situation where they can't use the doctors they have.
Well, which was the reason there was a large consideration last year when we stayed with Cigna, because Blue Cross Blue Shield was, or Piedmont rather, was trying to work a deal until the governor got involved or whatever. That was not going to be resolved, and just a little uneasy jumping ship at that point. So, and Blue Cross Blue Shield even offered a really good plan last year. Why? So a decision needs to be made pretty quick on that one now. Okay. So we have, and at the end here, there will be several, well, that won't be one of them, though. I was going to say there's several that will fit on a consent agenda. This one will not, but you're going to have to hear both options. Any other questions? questions or comments?
Chairman, I guess I can ask, you know, when we get closer to it, but being on a calendar year and stuff, fiscal year, we've talked about it, I've talked about it plenty of times. It's hard to budget for any increase, really. And so, you know, so I'm just, that's, well, so that was where my next question was, is we got.
So the only way to do this is to, assume a factor in there, and since we changed mid-year, ours is calendar year, theirs is not, so we're splitting theirs. What you agree to pay for in this renewal will take you to mid-year next year. If there is an increase, we have to allow for that in our budgeting process, and we do factor a percentage increase to cover that. So that's, and here in a second, we're gonna talk about an item number 9, budget amendments, where that was budgeted last year but was not required. And that money will actually be used to amend the budget in other areas, so. Okay. But you can't, because we are set up on a calendar, you're right, you cannot, you can't leave that out. You have to allow for an increase, especially in the healthcare cost, and that's why this may be the year that you consider trying to start shifting some of that. But it's something that Matt will explain a lot smoother and a little bit more fluid than I'm doing right now. So, I'll at least provide you that information, a clean copy of it. Any other comment on that? Okay. Item number 6 is discuss the 2019 beer and wine license application for Bill's Barbecue. Each of you has a copy of that application, and let's see, get to it. So what I'd ask for is, there you go. And it has all the information from law enforcement backing that as well. So at the end of the month, and we will be voting to approve or disapprove, or deny rather, approve or deny that beer and wine license application. If you've got any questions about it though, please let me know and give us the opportunity to track down any information on that. Though don't wait till the end on that.
I get busy over that.
It is a pretty straightforward application. I didn't see any issues, but that's for you to decide. Any other questions on that one?
So would that be on the consent agenda?
It would be. That's going to be an up or down vote on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Our next item is discuss loss distribution for upcoming referendum. I'd offer just a general comment on SPLOST towards the final year of collection. We're seeing that that's going to fall short unless something really dramatic happens. Higher, the economy's up, money's being collected, that's a good thing. And a couple of points on this. This is not a new SPLOST or a new an additional tax. This will pick up, if approved, this would pick up at the conclusion of our current SPLOST. So there's no double, you know, we're not going to be adding 8-9 cents to our sales tax here. So this would just replace the one that we're currently collecting. And that money is approximately a little over $2 million a year to the county. And it is divided currently among 6 cities. It's also being used to fund, or it was allocated to offset some of the expenses for the IDA, for the fire service, for, a number, our road department, our rec department. There are various, agencies that, it is dispersed among. Largely in the absence of, or without wanting to increase millage, the sales tax has afforded us an opportunity that has been used largely to fund capital purchases in this county. It cannot go towards salaries, and it can't go towards certain other things, services and what have you, but it can go towards tangible physical items. And so it has been used that way, and much of what we do now, it's not ideal, but that's how we fund, or we finance things in this county. So the SPLOST referendum in November is going to be really, really important to the county. Very, very important deal. And you heard the request for different, and they're additional, but if you haven't heard tonight, that most likely will be in to request that. So right now we're at that point where we have met with our municipalities, and the county attorney actually provided a very nice framework and really a timeline for them and for us to be able to follow. And we're working on completing an intergovernmental agreement between the county and the cities. And I don't want to speak again too early, but it appears that we may be looking at very much a status quo arrangement with them as well. And there appears to be consensus among them already, even though all of them haven't thrown their name in the hat. But with that consensus, that means that we'll be able to move forward with it without really waiting on perhaps a single signatory, if that were to be the case. And I don't believe it will be, but my point is that part has been talked about, it's been discussed. I think it's going to be fine. The next step would be then to determine a final or a projected SPLOST collection amount, and how it is going to be dispersed among whatever projects and organizations within the county that the commissioners put on a referendum and citizens vote for in November. They can put all they want to on there. If it doesn't get voted, it doesn't get voted. And let me tell you, our job will be dramatically more difficult at that point. Trying to account for additional $2 million a year is going to be a challenge on any considerations or distribution notions for this SPLOST, if they have any. And again, you've got information from the Volunteer Fire Service. You've got information from another project that you'll probably hear about at the end of the month. You've got the IDA's request. There are going to be several others that approach the board here, so I just want to give you that heads up. So is there any comment or any further discussion on SPLOST distribution?
Have you given the departments a timeline to give you what your, or their estimated request, and get it, so we can get it summarized, I guess, and get it, so we can look at it holistically?
I've got it pretty much from every department that what they've got is the minimum they want, and that they take more than they get it. It's the reality is, if we change anything in the mix, it changes the disbursement all the way around. And so we have historical, as part of our budget discussions right now, that SPLOST is being used as part of their budgets. So as we, and I've met with 6 departments already as far as their budget requests. So I'm starting to get those in, and that's where that'll kind of materialize. If they're assuming if no change in that stream is how they're figuring their budget. And I shouldn't say their budget. they budget but they don't put certain items in there because it is their intent to purchase from SPLOST. I've asked them to maintain the budget as close as they can. Again, with the thought now, especially that if SPLOST were not to pass, I don't want there to be that coming on. That is, you know, they need to fund as much as they can with their budget request through the county. It's our direction right now.
Are they going to give you and obviously, as we've discussed on the referendum language, we'll try to make it broad so they have flexibility. Typically, when department heads and constitutional officers as well make their requests, they will have more specificity as to what capital items they anticipate coming up. For example, I remember the registrar has said that she anticipates having upgrades some equipment,
right,
that sort of thing.
Right. And I'll be sure to get those items from them.
And the other consideration I'd like to see is if there's any estimated impacts to the operating budget of acquiring that capital. I mean, if it's a car replacement, you know, you get operating dollars today, you've got operating dollars tomorrow, but if it's a new piece of equipment, you know, is it an impact to the overall budget consideration?
Yeah. Talking about like either replacement or just new or
any additional impact that may
additional. That was what I was, yeah, additional. All right.
So, the request for roads, okay, which I'm assuming that, which is going to be a large portion of the splash goes to that. So explain to me, I guess going forward, what most of that money would be used for? Is that so the splash part of it? Yeah.
Historically, I can tell you what it was used for.
Okay.
It was used in the actual paving and maintenance on the roads, and a large majority of it was spent that way. Recently meaning the last year and a half, we have tried to slow that as far as the paving project because of the need for replacement equipment. Just didn't have, you know, we really need one. And so that is how they've been using that. I can share with you that a little less than red with their SPLOST. And we are now at the completion, if we assume that the OMIG and all the projects that were approved, they will be $600,000 to $700,000 in the black still after all of that. So that gives us some latitude when we have bridges and pipes, roads washed out to be able to address that. It's been a blessing to have that on hand to be able to respond to these, as opposed to worrying about where it's going to come from. When you don't have a reserve, there's no place to reach back and grab from. So it has been in the maintenance primarily of roads. And this will make this product that we're trying to put together now, the transportation improvement product that kind of identifies which roads that we want to take under, whether it's LMIG or not, and the or not part is where this comes in to play, though, is if we're ever going to get any additional roads taken under county maintenance or paved, then in many cases we're going to have to be staring at the money in the bank. Any other questions or comments?
You know when our next meeting would be on this, do we have any more with the cities or?
None for the cities. The cities are meeting with their city councils, and Mike has provided an intergovernmental agreement. We need to provide total numbers so that we can show the breakout, so that when they vote, they're actually voting on an amount or an idea of that. So,
in the meeting we had, there was no give.
No, there was no give. All 6 cities wanted at least what they were receiving or were requesting that, and we had 1 request for additional money, so. And that additional money, if the other cities don't get, means that it comes from the county, or would have to come from the county, so.
But their project lists are not an issue because all of them are devoting all of their proceeds either to streets, roads, and bridges, water and sewer, or some combination of the two.
Right, infrastructure type, so.
So do you think June 3rd, the agreement would be available for that?
Yeah, it absolutely could be. It's really, there's no obstacles other than the county coming up with its own project list and getting the estimated revenues. That's all we're lacking right now.
Maybe the last meeting.
It'd probably be the last meeting. Estimated revenue, we'll have that by the end of this week. We'll have it, but, again, it's gonna look pretty familiar to what we have. I mean, that's just the way the numbers are panning out.
When you fall short, do you have to make that up in the next, or does it just fall short?
If it falls short, this is where it matters a whole lot that there's consensus among the cities and everything so that the projects get funded in a certain order. And, so county identified projects. It's much like our fire service when SPLOST was being collected, we identified an amount, but until it comes in, sometimes, you know, it's difficult to parcel that out in advance, so. And one other item in that, in Craig, we have an opportunity to use very low interest money. It may serve the county to go ahead and complete a project as opposed to waiting for whether it's material cost, and we see this going up, you know, pretty steadily all the time now. So if that's the plan, though, it may prove to be financially cheaper to go ahead and fund and build.
Just using SPLOST as leverage, basically.
Yeah, that's your payment. Yeah, it's your payment.
Yeah, so, I actually had a lawyer friend, same guy who did the, IDA refinance bonds. He gave me the language today to put in the referendum, that would authorize but not require you to fund some or all of your SPLOST through bonds. And you can refine that as you go through if you want to choose just to ask the voters to authorize you to issue bonds for just a certain portion of it, not all of it. You know, that'd be fine too.
But it needs to be in the referendum.
But it has to be in the referendum, so. Again, that's really, we have the language, it's a matter of plugging numbers in now, so that's, again, in your hands.
So, I guess it's just a matter of point, so at the next meeting, the end of the month meeting, this will also be on the agenda so that we can discuss a specific area.
Absolutely, and hopefully there'll be more fidelity, there'll be some, you know, specificity, I think was the word used, we'll have that. Okay.
Oh, looking at item 7 on the agenda packet, the existing SPLOST as of today, it's showing about $800,000 shortfall.
Correct.
Is the delta of that being shared by all those line items proactive or in a prorated manner, or is roads taking the whole hit? I mean, how is that?
I believe it's prorated. Okay. Yeah, and I know that it was set up percentage, you know, it was a prorated request, so that's and that's where we may fall short on, you know, that total collection.
That's fine.
Okay. Yep. Other comment on that?
Look forward to getting it.
Me too. Sure. All right, on to item number 8. Discuss amending section 50-45 regarding unused annual leave. And again, this is a bit of housekeeping, and all it suggests is that we have a policy in place that allows an employee to carry 240 hours vacation over into the new year. At the end of that year, anything in excess of 240 is lost. If an employee leaves the county excess of 240. The way it reads right now, in other words, they carried it over and they've accrued some into the new year, and they leave for whatever reason. The language, as you see it there, states that upon cessation of employment, an employee shall be paid for all unused annual leave, and in parentheses, up to 240 hours, unless he or she fails to give proper notice of resignation as provided in the subsection, which is a 2-week notice. So if they've earned this in an appropriate manner, again, they would have used it, they could use it, they could just take the notice. I'm saying I'd like to remove that up to 240 hours. There's a penalty for earning leave and then not using it in your final year or whatever, and that just doesn't seem appropriate to me. That'll be for you to decide, but that was the basis behind this, trying to remove that. Because it's
kind of a yes or no comment.
right. And again, there's nothing with an employee earning leave in excess of 240 just because they didn't take it. I just don't see why they would be penalized for not using it before they left.
So,
What would be the maximum outreach or risk? I mean, somewhere there's a maximum amount of hours that somebody can acquire. The longest legit, I mean, what?
It depends on their tenure. They earn at different rates. A new employee may earn 6 hours, 8 hours. One's been here a long time may earn 10 hours a pay period or a month or whatever, a month. It's a month, right? And so they accrue at varying levels. But whatever that accrual is, they still are all bound to 240 hours. So yeah, it would favor a longer term employee, but again, that's the current system here. Does that make sense?
It does, but like I'm gonna say, if I decide to leave on December 30th, I've had 240 hours carried over. I've been a long time, high-paying employee.
Yeah, right.
I could generally get X number of hours.
If you had 144 hours built up in addition to the 244, then that's what you get paid, the 240 plus the 100.
Yeah, if you look back at the preceding page of the policy, it looks like the most anybody can accrue is 17 hours per month. That'd be if you have 15 years and over of continuous employment and you work 24-hour shifts. And so that would be 17 times 12, so you could have another 204 hours plus that 240 you've accrued.
Thank you, Mike. I didn't have my calculator. I figured it out, but I didn't have my calculator with me. Any other questions? Good.
Yeah,
All right. No, that's fine. I don't.
600 at 15 an hour.
Okay. Item number 9. Discuss 2018 budget amendments. You have in front of you, these are, again, hopefully, as we're nearing the audit, our audit has begun for 2018. These amendments, I believe, are the last that we're aware of. And what you have listed in each little grouping there, you have the item, and in the italics is the source that would be amended from, or it would be paid for by. But our auditor wants to see these actually approved, so that when the money's moved, there's a paper trail for that. And I'm comfortable with explaining any one of these if there's one that. There are some that you'll see if the explanation is increase in revenue and expense. So if there's a charge for doing something and there's a fee received, as a result of doing that, that's, again, first page at the bottom, toward the bottom, probate court, revenue, printing and filing fees reimbursed. They get reimbursed for that, but it comes into the county and we have to, tag it to a line item, so. LMIG is pretty easily explainable. Probably the more, I won't say complicated, but the least obvious is on the last page, the wages, election workers, overtime, Social Security, Medicare. Money was not budgeted when we started. There's several items that need to be considered when you budget for elections. First of all, one's the number of elections. So if you decide to have a special election or one that wasn't planned, there's going to be an expense associated with that. If you did not, if we're off on how much, as far as the election workers and the overtime, all of this though is if you can see can be amended from contingent wages and taxes. The board approved. This was, now you got to go back to 218. The board approved a 3%. They set aside 3% as a pay adjustment, salary adjustment, but awarded 2. That 1% is what is actually being used to pay for that. So each one of these has a payment method on there. That's all I'm trying to say. And again, if you look at it and there's questions, and the source is Kathy, finance director. But again, I'm fairly comfortable with all of these as far as being able to explain and show you exactly where that comes from now. But for our accounting purposes, we need to put these changes in place so that she can account for it properly in her audit. We ready to move on, or any questions on that?
I just think a comment, I think a little additional housekeeping on the notes that were given out may help facilitate. I understand what you're saying, but it's just not intuitive to pick it up and realize some of those comments.
Okay. No, I can embellish. How about that? Is that a good word? Can I offer a little bit? And again, this was from the finance director, and I think many times when you work with this day in and day out, it's very obvious to her. And if I were not sitting with her either daily or almost daily, I would not be as comfortable with it either. But I assure you that there's for every one of these items, there is a very obvious explanation and a method of payment on every one of those as well. So, and you do see the capital leases on that second page too for the fire truck.
Yeah.
So
it might be just as simple as the first column the increase and the second column the decrease.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because you'll see the totals adding up on those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then you get down to page 3, and they're all expenditures with zero revenue defined, but.
Right, and she's giving you the source of where that money would come from because it was not the repair and maintenance at the senior center building. We had some mold issues, and but we had in our buildings and ground budget there is a line item that would cover those items countywide, and that's where that came from. But you're right, those are very abbreviated. Any other comments on those? Right, so the items that you might see then would be, and this is pending I got to follow through now and make sure you have these items, but budget amendment, you'll have to have that presentation from Matt. And then the other 2 items will probably be ongoing discussion. That seem reasonable? Okay. I'm going to take the silences your consent to put it on the consent agenda. All right, moving on to roads update.
Can I make one comment?
Please.
Just since this will be the first time, I guess, we've had a consent agenda. Normally, you have not adopted your agenda formally at the beginning of the meeting, and you don't need to, but since you're gonna have a consent agenda, it probably would be helpful to the chairman to preside if at the beginning of the meeting, if anybody has decided you want something pulled off that consent agenda, let him know at the beginning.
They could know, and we'll amend it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of rules in that, folks. Okay. On to roads updates. I have two items I wanted to mention, and we'll take whatever you have. Mike has provided a right-of-way deed paperwork for South Creek Drive. South Creek was one of the 5 roads that was taken into consideration for county adoption, and we're currently 3 of 5 on those. This would be number 4 of 5. I have spoken with a property owner who has granted us the total length of right-of-way on his property, and we'll be coming in, actually I'll be going out there with Alan, as he is a notary, and we will obtain those signatures probably Wednesday afternoon. So that one will come back to you, and that should be a done deal. So
How's the washouts coming?
that's bad road.
Creek washed out.
What's that?
The pipes were washed out.
Yeah, pipes are washed out.
No.
I'm talking about, a road down.
Oh, okay.
All the ones that washed out.
Duncan Swindle, Short
Yeah,
Sea Graves.
I would suggest everybody get to see.
It's impressive. Water is a very powerful thing. The other item I wanted to mention, though, is one of the 5 that the board took under consideration was Paradise Valley, and that one is in District 2, and it does not appear we're going to get those signatures. So Alan has asked that we consider an additional road in its place. It is our top offender as far as problems, and that is Gosnell's Hutto Road. It's a very bad road if you haven't done it. And it does have the benefit, it's got county water, and it's got a number of things over there, and a lot of residences on that road too, so.
Maybe we get down and the kids having to walk into the road.
Right, yeah, and the school operates independently from the county as far as they can go. They can choose whatever road they're gonna actually travel down. We do try to help them out as much as we can when there's a road that's impassable. Sometimes, you know, it's difficult though, so maybe be thinking about that, and if it's your desire, maybe at the next meeting we could probably vote to at least take that into consideration and start getting right-of-way signatures. Sound all right? Okay.
That would definitely need to.
It does. Any other items as far as roads that you want me to bring up? Or any that need to be looked at? No? All right. Any urgent matter? Executive session, do you know of any other?
Nothing other than the item you mentioned.
Okay, and I will contact the commissioners individually. We may have a reason, we'll push that to the last meeting to go into executive session for a possible reason on that, so. But I'll ask each of you, see if that's something that you want to pursue. All we need is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Doster?
Yes.
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 Very good. Folks, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.